Do you hate your government? Sick and tired of presidents you hate? Feel fed up with the world and feel powerless to change it? Well, I've got just the thing for you.
STV.
STV is the newest revolution in democracy. It'll clean up any distaste you have with your government in 6 years flat. Just take any old democratic state, spray it with STV, and it'll be good as new.
Good as new.
Take that old voting system and throw it in the trash. You won't be needing that old thing anymore. Feel confident in your government and feel confident that your vote is making a difference.
Making a difference.
For just one easy payment of slight government restructuring and a general consensus from the people, STV can be yours by the next midterm election. Don't wait, buy now.
STV, the government fixer. Side effects include
Happiness, faith in your government, less hatred of your neighbors, freedom to vote for who you want, less pressure from your peers, less pressure from your party, an end to the lesser of two evils, world peace, free pizza, and this party.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that. Took me far too long to make. It's probably the greatest thing I've ever made. But it is a very good intro into what I'm going to be talking about today, which is the difference between single transferable vote and first past the post. So, if you don't know, the voting system that we use here in the US is called first past the post. It's named after horse races where, the first horse past the post wins. And it's a very, very flawed system, which isn't immediately noticeable if you live here. It's like, oh, it's a simple system. Everyone gets a vote. Person with the most votes wins. Very simple, fair, straightforward. But with the straightforward system comes a lot of problems. And basically every single issue that we have with politics in the United States has a root cause in first past the post. So first, I'm going to talk about why exactly first past the post is such a bad system. And then I'll talk about single transferable vote and why we should definitely change our voting system to STV. So I have two main problems with first past the post, which is that it's a system where a lot of votes are wasted and a system where the majority is all that matters. First, I want you to take a look at this graph and you'll see that according to first past the post, orange, fair and balanced winner, got 50% more votes than second place. Definitely the winner of this election. But if you look at it this way, you'll see that while 30% of people did want this candidate, 70% of people didn't. This is what I mean when I say wasted votes. Those 70% of voters aren't being represented in government because their votes were thrown away when it was determined that the people they voted for lost. A system where the majority is all that matters is sort of opposite to what a democracy should be. In the Senate, for example, if there are more of one party than the other party basically gets no say, and the party in the majority just controls what happens for the next several years. So in order to prevent that from happening, you have to vote against that party. Which means that instead of voting for who you want, more often than not, it's about voting against who you don't want. Which then makes this weird dynamic where if you lose the election, it's bad because you feel like you're not being represented. But if you win the election, it's better than having lost, but is still not exactly what you wanted. So all of this together leads to large amounts of time where half of the country doesn't feel represented in their government. When they do feel represented in their government, it's often by a person who they feel isn't exactly right for them. And it's kind of hard to get out of that because due to the way that the system works, you're not really allowed to vote for people who you want because you have to vote against the people who you don't want. Which, all in all, just makes a system that doesn't really feel like a great democracy. Like, it feels weird. And these are reasons why the US has such low voting rates, because a lot of people feel like their vote isn't really doing anything, and therefore the chore isn't worth doing. So in single transferable vote, you still only get one vote. But instead of just giving it to your candidate of choice, you rank the candidates in your order of preference. And if your first choice is determined that they won't win, your vote transfers to your second choice, and then to your third choice, and so on, ensuring that you are always having some influence on the election, even after your first choice has been eliminated. Single transferable vote is a voting system that works a lot better when there are multiple winners per election. This is to better represent the people in a district actually having the election. Like, if that district is 2/3 Republican and 1/3 Democrat, for example, you could have 2 Republican candidates and 1 Democratic candidate that would actually really well represent that district. Now, before I explain anything else, let me show you an admittedly oversimplified example of what a single transferable vote election might look like. Now here you can see the 5 candidates, red, orange, yellow, green, and blue, and how many votes they each received. So the first step is determining what % of votes each of the candidates needs to win. Now, in single transferable vote, no votes are wasted, which means that 100% of the votes go towards one of the winning candidates. In this example, there will be 3 winners, which means that each of them needs to get 33% of the votes. The next step is to check for any candidates that have already won. In this case, red has more than enough votes to win. So we will cut off the votes above that line and move all of them to their second choice. Then we will eliminate the candidate who got the least amount of votes. In this case is blue, and we'll move all of their votes to their second choice. Now we just repeat. There are no votes above the line, so now we'll look for whoever has the least amount of votes. With the previous step, green surpassed yellow by just a bit, so yellow is now on the chopping block, and we'll move all of their votes to their second choice. Green is now above the line, so we'll cut those votes off and move them to their third choice. The election is complete. The winners are red, orange, and green, and you'll see that each and every vote cast was accounted for. None are wasted. Now, you might be saying, what? Green was 4th. That's not fair that they won. Which might be true at first glance, but let's look at this a little bit closer. Blue voted green for their second choice, not yellow. Yellow voted green for their second choice, not blue. So in this case, yellow and blue didn't like each other, but they both kind of liked green. So if yellow or blue would have won, they would have left the other group feeling annoyed. But because they got green, yellow and blue kind of meet in the middle and have a candidate that they're both pretty okay with. So red and orange won because they had the most votes, it makes sense. And green is a little bit interesting, but because of the way the system works, it naturally had the votes meet in the middle. Now, that is quite oversimplified. Obviously, not everyone who voted for yellow would vote green as their second choice, but it does a good job of showcasing the benefits of the system and the way that it would work in theory. Now, let's go back to those 4 trash bags that I showed earlier, and we'll talk about how STV solves each and every one of them. First, let's talk about these 2 because they're pretty similar and are solved by similar reasons. With single transferable vote, you can vote for whoever you want without worrying about your vote being wasted. In first past the post, you have to worry about voting for the person that your party's voting for and making sure that you're voting against the candidate that you don't like. But with single transferable vote, you can vote for smaller party candidates like the Green Party or Libertarian candidates, for example, and make those your first choice, and then make your second choice the Democratic or Republican candidate. And You still get the benefit of giving your vote to the lesser of two evils, but you can still freely give your vote to the person you want more without worrying about your vote being wasted. Next, I'll talk about the two-party system. With first past the post, again, because the majority is all that matters, it's a very binary system, but with single transferable vote, there's a lot more fluidity and a lot more room for a political spectrum. And what that ends up looking like is a government that is made up of a lot of different parties, and often one where no single party has a majority. Ireland has been using single transferable vote for a long time, and if you look at this picture, this is what the party distribution of the Irish government looked like in 2016. You'll see that there are some bigger parties and some smaller parties, but they all have a seat at the table. And you'll also notice that no single party holds a majority. Now, what this means is that in all cases, when passing a bill or a law, parties need to compromise with other parties in order to come to an agreement, which means that every single bill or law that's passed is guaranteed to be backed by two or more parties, which means that it's not possible for one party to have complete control over the government at any one time. Now, all of this leads back into low voter turnout, which is when everyone feels a lot more confident in their government and confident that their vote is actually doing something and confident that the people that they voted for are representing them, more people will be willing to go out and actually vote. Alright, I hope you found that video interesting and that you learned a thing or two. Before I learned about single transferable vote, I hadn't ever thought about our voting system before or what problems could even exist in it, so I hope I opened your eyes a little into the flaws in first past the post and made you realize that there are much better systems out there. This video oversimplified pretty much everything, so if you're interested in any of this, I encourage you to do some more research into it yourself. Several states in the US are already starting to use STV, which is pretty cool, and I encourage all of you to keep an eye out for bills proposing a change from first past the post to single transferable vote in any upcoming elections. Have a good rest of your day.